Hi there, Chris here with another fresh tip for you all. In this video we are going to finish off Sigvald the Prince of Slannesh, and as you can see here we have all his parts all painted up and ready to go, and so now we are going to go forward with our final assembly. I'm going to refer back to the instruction manual to make sure that I put this guy kind of back together in the right order, as it were. And so for that, we're going to get started with the main body and the cloak that kind of hangs off of his belt line. I guess it's kind of like his loincloth thing. I don't know. Whatever it is, he's got all sorts of things. But you can see here, I still have a little bit of sprue stuck to the model. That was where our clamps were hanging onto so that we could easily paint this model. I'm going to whip out my snippers, and basically I'm going to use my snippers in a typical fashion in which I assemble parts, where basically I put the flat end closest to the model bit and then give the snippers a slight turn as I apply pressure, separating that bit of sprue. I have a fresh X-Acto blade here to plane off the excess nub that may be there. Don't worry if you scrape off a little bit of paint, because we can always reapply paint in that area again. Here I'm just simply doing a quick dry fit to make sure that the parts line up properly and everything still seats correctly. And after we've kind of got this little dry fit going on, we can clear off the contact points. So basically with that little tab inside the cloak here, and along the perimeter, very carefully I plane off the excess paint and primer and everything just right back down to the bare plastic. Not applying a lot of pressure as we do this, because again, you could always end up messing things up. I'm just using an old brush here just to pull the excess plastic away. And then of course I quickly will score that surface area, and we're going to repeat this process onto where this bit connects up onto the body. So basically mirroring what we had done. So I'm going to clear a portion on the upper side of where that part meets up, and then of course along the belt line I'm just simply using an old brush here just simply to remove away the excess plastic, little debris and paint. I like to use Model Master's plastic cement, but you could also use Tamiya extra thin cement, and I think there's another kind of cement as well, or Citadel's plastic cement. They all pretty much do the same thing, and these are really the best way to assemble your plastic kits, styrene plastic kits. You can see here it was very little amount of glue applied to that area, and then once basically you give it about an hour or so, it fully cures and the plastic forms a bond, kind of like how welding occurs, right? You melt two sides of metal and it bonds. Well, that's what plastic does when you apply this plastic cement. It basically melts the plastic, and then it allows you to obviously weld the plastic together. Here I'm just doing the big cloak, snipping those parts. You can see there the plastic is showing through, so we take the blade, clear off the nubs, basically I plane it down with my X-Acto blade, and then of course using the blade at a perpendicular angle to the surface, simply smooth it out. If I destroy some of the paint job there, I'm fine with that, because I'm going to go over that anyway. Here again, I'm just simply doing a quick little dry fit to make sure where the parts line up, and I also want to see where basically like the main strength of where these parts line up. And in his shoulders, there's two little connecting points where I'm just kind of pointing to there. I've already planed off the plastic, and I'm just going to give them a quick little score. Again, the scoring is so that we provide more surface area for the glue to grab hold of, and also penetrate a little further into the plastic, so that when we press the parts together, they kind of do a little bit of a squishy thing, and they form together much better. Here I just simply cleared off a contact point on the wrist, and also on the back of the shield I clear off that contact point for the shield, and then assemble it in that fashion. Now the reason for doing it this order is because that's the way the instruction manual shows to do it before applying the cloak. It really wouldn't affect it, I don't think, but I was going to follow the instructions anyway. Here with the cloak, because we cleared off some nice big contact points, and the cloak is not that heavy, but it is kind of precarious as it kind of dangles out from the body, so I wanted to make sure I had a good, large contact area, not like the little belt one. We're going to jump into some Celestra Gray and some Oathran Gray, mixing this in a 1-to-1 mix ratio. It's actually probably a little bit more Oathran Gray than it is Celestra. And this is so that to match up with that color. Now, I know that I use the Celestra Gray and the Oathran Gray to do these things, so that's why we jump back to these colors. If you, I don't know, for whatever reason, you couldn't duplicate these colors again, you could also fudge it and say, for example, bring the red over to that side and catch that edge in the red. you kind of make lemonade in some of these situations. But here I'm just demonstrating that those areas have been painted over, and it looks seamless now. Next, we're going to jump over to the shoulder pads. These are pretty straightforward. Again, I'm just going to snip off the excess sprue because that was where we had the little clamps hanging on. You can see we cleared a nice little contact point. Another thing about clearing the sprue from the bits is that also pay attention to where the sprue connects up to the part. The shoulder pads, it was a flat angle, and so I hold the snippers flush to that surface, and it cuts it nice and clean, and it pretty much was very minimal amount of clearing. There's little squares inside those shoulder pads and on the contact points on the shoulders, and so those are cleared off. These are tiny little points, but I'm not too worried. Again, once these things are melted, these tiny little areas are actually quite strong. Separating these parts, you end up ruining the model anyway. But just a simple jolt or anything like that, these things are not going to fall. They're not going anywhere. Once they're melted and bonded like that, they're together. The other thing to be mindful of is also the shoulder pads are keyed. There is little details on the side that points towards the back that allows these parts to join up. And in fact, this whole model was actually a really great model to do sub-assembly. It's very, very clear. All the parts match up really, really nicely here. I just simply cleared off the contact point, that little peg under his head, and then cleared off where it meets up in the body. Little bit of contact cement, applied generous amount of pressure, and of course, as I've moved on to each of these steps, I also gave it about an hour between each of the little phases so that the cure time on the plastic cement had plenty of time to provide a nice strong bond before I started manhandling this thing again. Here I'm clearing off the contact points on both feet. And again, you're not applying a whole lot of pressure when you do this because, you can see here how I'm hanging on to precarious angles of this guy to clear these off. And in fact, we probably could have did this phase probably when we were still painting this model. We could have kept these points clear of paint so that, some forethought, I guess. I don't do a lot of sub-assemblies, especially with a model like this where I, pretty much had all the parts separated. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with how it all turned out, of course, and apply a generous amount of glue onto both of those little pegs. Make sure that they line up perfectly, and I drop it straight in. I don't want to bounce the model around and get glue on any of the paint. If you do end up getting any of the contact cement on top of the paint, leave it alone. Don't touch it, don't rub it or anything like that, and you should be fine. But here we go. We have the final assembly of Sigvald the Prince of Slannesh for the Hedonites of Slaanesh, and he's all done. Now there are other steps that have been gone through. I did them in the getting painting done, or getting projects done, I should say, episodes. So if you want to see what I also did for that shield and every other little details, check those videos out. Big thank you to my patrons. Without their support, these videos would not be possible. If you're considering Patreon support, a huge, huge thank you to everybody who does. Click the link in the description below and you'll be taken off to a magical website. Take care of those brushes and they will take care of you.